Folks, welcome into SportsBookReview.com. This is your Major League Playoff Baseball Edition show. We are here for the postseason, getting you ready for World Series action. I'm excited. We got a nice little breather yesterday, Jason, to decompress, take a look at the playoffs, and now we are ready to get after it. 4 games today, a crazy wild card day tomorrow that we're certainly looking forward to, but it's here now, the postseason. We carried you through the regular season. I'm Donnie Seymour. He's Jason Radowitz, and this is fun. This is where you get into it. The best meet the best of 3-game series in the first round here. I'm really looking forward to it, Jason. Major League Baseball playoffs, we're finally here. And you know what, Jason, before we get started, it's nice to get that stress relief. I don't have to watch my Phillies blow leads in the playoffs. You don't have to watch the Mets go down in order. We're here to analyze the playoffs, and we don't have any preconceived notions, Jason. I'm excited, buddy. How about it?
Yeah, I know you're a big college basketball guy, too. This just feels like March Madness. When I was back in the day, when I was in, high school, middle school, I'd fake sick Thursday and Friday, and I would make sure I'm home watching those games. Even on, when the Mets had opening day at 1 o'clock, I'd fake sick and stay home. But this is the day where, I hope that a lot of you guys are staying home from work, kind of, sort of. We're lucky that we get to, do this for a job and don't have to worry about calling in sick. But I hope some of you guys in the chat called in sick because it's gonna be a fun week.
I'm really looking forward to it, and it's great because, usually we have playoffs and they're a lot of fun, but now that expanded playoffs, you're right, it does have the feel of a conference tournament in playoff basketball in the NCAA, and also obviously moving into tournaments. This is a good time to be alive here. Last night we saw a great NFL game, had a great show on SportsBookReview.com. You guys have been really supporting us all year long, and now right into the playoffs. 121 people already watching just a few moments into the show. 69,600 people have hit the subscribe button. We do thank you for that. Turn the notifications on when we go live. Jason and I talking Major League Baseball here in the playoffs. We'll be able to get after it, and you'll be able to watch it and come in the chat box and say hello. Matt, Edwin, Paul, Alex, Andrew. Who else is in here? Sean B, Steve S. Let's slide up here. Edwin's in here. Pandemonium's in here. The Copyright Police, Lamont Williams, James Rivoli. Let's keep sliding up here. Eddie Riley, Stephen Montez. Thank you guys for tuning in. And also, yes, all the happy birthday wishes. I do appreciate it. I don't feel like I'm old. Jason, people like that, they keep me a lot younger around here, and we'll see how far we can play this out. But we got Major League Baseball to talk to. Now, the one thing we usually do, guys, is just go right into the game. Since there's 4 games, we have a little bit more time, but it's a lot of fun to take a look at some of these series. I just have a few brought up here, and they're changing rapidly. Jason sent me a link yesterday with some of the information with the series coming down and take a look at what the odds are. They've fluctuated massively, even over the last 24 hours. Let's start today with some of the games here in the playoff series. Minnesota Twins, Houston Astros. Obviously, we know in this game, banging on the trash cans, going on the road. You get some playoff weather today in this series. Looking at that mid-50s range up in Minnesota. 178 is a favorite here listed at FanDuel. Astros plus 150. I still don't trust the Astros, Jason. Kenta Maeda's on the mound today versus Zach Greinke. We'll break that game down individually, but I think the Twins overall to me are the better baseball team. 178, 180 is a little bit of a steep price, specifically in a 3-game series where if you steal one game, all hell can break loose. But I still lean with the Twins here in this series early. Any thoughts on the series between the Twins and the Astros here, Jason?
Yeah, I mean, the Astros are a team that, are cheating. And I think that's shown with their hitting. The reality is Justin Verlander's out there. Greinke hasn't looked great. And we'll see that, later today. And the Twins have the bats and probably have the better pitching compared to the Astros as well. Like you said, the Twins at minus 180, it's a steep price. There's other series that you can look at for better prices and better value. So this isn't one of the series that I would touch, but I definitely agree with the Twins in this one.
Yeah, me too. I do. And again, nice sort of rooting interest out there. Outside of maybe the city of Houston, is anybody actually really rooting for the Houston Astros here? Really good playoff series that I'm interested in. Almost a dead pick 'em right here. 108 on both sides here as I'm taking a look at FanDuel. That's the Oakland Athletics and the Chicago White Sox today. Look, the White Sox are fit. They're going on the road, obviously, to play. I believe it's, am I reading this right? It's in Oakland today. Is that correct? Yeah. Or is it in Chicago?
It's in Oakland.
In Oakland, yeah, this has it backwards there. But you're getting really good hitting weather out there. We'll see how that keeps up over the weekend. But also take a look at the Oakland Athletics starting pitching. Not dominant. I just think you have more wheels on the Chicago White Sox end here. I like their bats. I trust them more in this environment. They're actually a favorite in the first game of the series. I do agree with it. If you can get decent starting pitching out of the White Sox, there's no reason to believe that they can't win this series. A little bit banged up on the offensive side for the Oakland Athletics. I'm going to go with Chicago White Sox in the series. I just think that talent can rise to the occasion and scratch out some more runs.
Yeah, you can still get the White Sox as slight underdogs as well. I'm seeing some, I found about plus 100, plus like 110. The White Sox, the first game they're obviously favorited, so that helps. Especially knowing that in the first game they're going to be favorites. And they're still slight underdogs in the series, so that's pretty interesting. You look at it that way. The Athletics will have Chris Bassett on the mound in the second game. He actually won the AL Player of the Month award in September. So, Bassett looked really good, but the Athletics really struggled to hit the ball with Bassett on the mound in his last start. So, yeah, I think, the second game might be really intriguing and tough for the White Sox, but not knowing who's going to be pitching the third game, if it's Mike Fiers or, if it's Mike Minor, either way, the White Sox should probably do well in that third game. So, maybe they'll have Donnie on the mound as their third starter. I'm not sure if they have problems for the third game just yet, but I think the White Sox probably have the edge in that third game, and they're favorites in that first game. So if they have the edge in two games and they're still underdogs in the series, then obviously I would take the underdog in this one as the Chicago White Sox are around plus 100.
And there's a lot of low totals, and obviously you're getting the cream of the crop pitchers, obviously, and better bullpens. That's who makes the playoffs. But you do see a market difference because we're going to go over as we go team by team here, or excuse me, for the games itself, the four. There's a lot of lower numbers, but there's a lot of questions that bring into it because I'm a guy that likes to take team totals overs and overs for the game. You saw a lot of high scoring in Major League Baseball again this year, but you also saw last year heading into the playoffs. The big question was it seemed like they changed the baseball for the playoffs. So, we're out of that realm of we need home runs. We just need to draw fan interest. The playoffs are here, and they want that more of a competitive game, if that would make sense. I'm interested to see how that goes today overall, but keep moving down this list to touch on some of these series. And again, we'll get to those four games that are today. Couple people asking in the chat box when we get to the Twins game. We'll get there in plenty of time. Tampa Bay Rays, Toronto Blue Jays down in the Dome, minus 225. You're listed at FanDuel. Blue Jays getting a healthy price of 186. I think what stands out to us in this series, Jason, is when you take a look at before we get to the Toronto line, the Tampa Bay lineup. There's a lot of strikeouts. You're looking at a three-game series, which I think Toronto matches up better in a three-game series than a full seven-game series because as the underdog, you're looking just to steal one of these games. Today, Snell will be on the mound. We'll get in depth in that game. I think they'll be able to hit lefties, which they've done all year, being the Toronto Blue Jays. The problem to me is, are you going to be able to get at least solid starting pitching today and also in game three outside of Hyun-Jin Ryu? That's my biggest question, but I'm not paying $225 or over $200 as a series price for the Rays in a three-game series where I don't like their bats one bit. Strike out too much, and would it be surprising if with the Rays go 3 runs, 2 runs, 3 runs over this three-game series? It wouldn't.
Yeah, and the Rays have actually performed worse at home this season, and the Blue Jays sitting at plus 180. They have a chance in this first game against Snell. They hit lefties really well, and then they'll have Ryu in the second game, and if he can shut down the Rays, they can win the first 2 games and win the series. So the Blue Jays at plus 180, I don't have a play on it. I'm not, it's not an official play for me personally, but the Blue Jays at plus 180 seems like a really great value play in this series. I know it's a 1 versus 8, but we've seen this before in March Madness where the 8 beats the 1, so why not in the MLB?
No, and it could certainly happen. And again, 3-game series. This is a sprint, man. This is why in the NBA they like to get rid of those 5-game series because they didn't want the upsets. They want the big boys to be able to continue through in this COVID-shortened season. All you need to do is steal game 1, and then you're in actually the favored mode because the other team's going to have to win the next 2 games. Interesting series here. The Cleveland Indians getting a plus money number, plus 100 here at FanDuel for the series versus the New York Yankees, 116. The one thing we can definitively say in this series, the starting pitching nod is going to go to the Cleveland Indians. But we're not talking about maybe if pitchers are going 6 or 7 innings and you leave it up to the bullpen. That's where you get an advantage for the Yankees. And also, let's not forget, we've watched the Yankees all season long and said, oh my goodness, look at the beginning of the year, how they raked. Then they got injured and still were able to hit. Then they got healthy, Jason, and still were able to hit. we're going to go into this game or this playoff series. They're going to get some elite pitchers with the Indians, but that 1 through 9 for the Yankees, as we like to say, needs one swing of the bat. And the question again that we have is the Tampa Bay Rays. Love them, good baseball team, but do you trust their bats? Are they going to the Cleveland Indians bats going to disappear here in October? I'm not willing to take that bet. I'll lean on the Yankees. Slight favorite here, minus 115. You're going to have Derek Cole in the mound today. If they can win game 1, they're in a huge advantage for the rest of this series. I just trust these bats for the Yankees and trust the Yankees bullpen more in this spot here, Jason. What are you thinking?
I think it's kind of funny how we're starting to see that there's a lot of money going on the Indians. Obviously, the Yankees have now dropped to I've seen even around plus 100 for the Yankees in this series, which I got it at minus 135 when it first came out, and now I'm seeing crazy numbers at like minus 121 and all of that stuff. So it's really interesting. I think people are trying to find that one upset, and they love the Indians, but the reality is the Yankees have the lineup, and the Indians really don't have that lineup. And therefore, I think the Yankees, they have the power to back up their pitching. You have Cole going game 1, then you have Tanaka going game 2. Tanaka's looked really good in the postseason throughout his career. I don't see that stopping here against an Indians lineup that really hasn't been good at all this season. So therefore, Yankees, I'm seeing now minus 121 in the series. That's a no-brainer to me. I think there's too much money going on the Indians, and I don't agree with it.
Now, here we go next. The public always loves a public underdog, usually goes somewhere to die. But I got to tell you, I'm looking at this. I love the Braves bats. I really do. Cincinnati is no slouch at the plate either coming into this. But if we're just going to take a look at a short stretch 3-game series where one team really outmans the other, specifically in the starting pitching, it's the Cincinnati Reds. And again, Cincinnati does have a decent bullpen that can pitch as well. So if you're going to get solid starting pitching out of the Reds, at least a decent bullpen, and those bats come to play because the Reds were hot down the stretch, they are a live dog to me versus Atlanta. And also, Jason, the point we like to bring up, we were talking before the show, there's no fans in the stands here. Like, you're not getting that true playoff atmosphere where you would have 35, 40,000 people screaming just about on every pitch and have that pressure mounting. That's not going to be the case. Cincinnati Reds sitting here plus 118 at FanDuel. I think they're a live dog. I really do, Jason. What's your thoughts on the series between the Braves and the Reds?
Well, so you look at the bottom of the NL in that bracket, you have the Cubs playing the Marlins, and you have the Reds versus the Braves. The Reds, if they can get through the Braves, and the Braves, again, they have terrible pitching outside of Max Fried, who will take game 1. After that, they don't have Soroka anymore. Folty's not there. Their pitching's just been really bad, starting pitching. And the Reds, they have some really good starting pitching with Bauer, Castillo, plenty of other guys that do damage for the Reds that are pretty good. So you have the Reds at plus 113 against the Braves as underdog in this series. But then you have the Reds going up against maybe the Cubs or the Marlins. And you're like, all right, well, the Reds probably have a better team than the Cubs or the Marlins. We saw the Cubs get absolutely destroyed by Pittsburgh last week. And the Marlins, the Marlins have had a great season. But, I mean, can anyone really see them moving on beyond, the second round in the playoffs? I don't think they have the talent to be able to do that. And I don't really see them beating the Cubs either. So with that said, you have the Cubs facing the Reds. The series this year, I think it was like 6-4. I think the Cubs won, but the reality is it's a 3-game series, not a 10-game series, and the Reds have the better pitching than the Cubs do. Obviously, you got Darvish and Bauer. We've already had that matchup before, but after that, it's like Castillo versus potential. I guess it would be Castillo versus maybe Lester or something. I mean, that's a big win for the Reds there. I think that would be a 5-game series, not a 3-game series. But what I was saying is basically the Reds probably have more talent than the Cubs to even go beyond in the second round, and that's why I also have $10 on the Reds at plus 3,500. Obviously, you profit $350 off of the $10. I said, why not? That was my Flyer World Series pick on the Reds. I think they have a nice path to the Final Four. Obviously, they'll probably have to face the Dodgers or the Padres in that Final Four. But, you look at the March Madness, and it's like you try to find those teams that have that path to get there. Yep. And you say, okay, well, if they can get there, then maybe they have a chance to win that game and move on. Obviously, there's a lot more games than just one game in the MLB, but you're trying to find those teams that can get to the Final Four, get to the championship. And the Reds, looking at their bottom of the NL bracket, they have the chance. That's why I took them as a World Series underdog play.
I can't fault you for that. I really can't, because I think the Reds have the components there that if you want to make a long stretch here in the playoffs from an underdog, they have the shots to try to take a victory here. And let's see if they can even beat the Atlanta Braves. I know us from being NL East fans of other teams, it would be really nice if the Braves got dropped in the first round here. Chicago Cubs, Miami Marlins, the team that opening day, we laughed at them because they were just, completely talent overridden from the rest of Major League Baseball. A small payroll, looked like they were just going to tank this season. Then they get COVID from 17 to 19 players are from their staff. It was amazing to start, and yet they still made the playoffs over some big money clubs, which is still astounding to me. But they are going to be a heavy dog in the series. Chicago Cubs open up in that 195 range. Marlins getting about a plus 162. Short 3-game stretch. I mean, the Marlins are tough. I mean, they have a decent lineup 1 through 9. Sixto Sanchez is going to be pitching in this series. They did lose, I believe, Jose Urena to that broken arm, so he's not going to be available. But they still do have some live arms here. Cubs' price seems a little bit long to me, though, Jason. Still does. It
is. I'm not touching this. I do think that I would imagine the Cubs win this series against the Marlins. But the Marlins are a sneaky little team. It's not worth touching. We'll look at the matchups in the regular games, and we'll see if we can find an edge in one of their games and make money off of that. But I wouldn't touch the series.
It's a little too pricey for me, and it's also one of those where I look up and down. It's not really one that I zero into, like, I can't wait for this Cubs Marlins series. I think there's a lot more interesting ones to go ahead. San Diego Padres over $2 here for their series, minus 210. Cardinals coming in about a plus 176. I really like the Padres. I like their bullpen. I like the way their lineup sets. I'd be really surprised when if we're taking a look at one of these heavily favored teams like the Cubs, Padres, Dodgers. We'll talk about in just a second. I would be surprised if the Padres went down in this series. I don't want to lay too. Again, if this was a longer series, like 7-game series, I don't have a problem laying a 210 price if I really have an advantage over those 7 games. But that's short sprint here. But again, I still can't believe that the Padres are going to go down. I would lean towards taking the Padres at that $2 price here.
Yeah, the Padres offense has been so much fun throughout the entire season. Yep. And, the Cardinals, they do have pitching. Like, that's one thing that you'd have to worry about. I do think the Padres are probably a little bit more favored than they should be at minus, obviously, 215. Let's not forget, you got Flaherty, Wainwright, Gomber. These guys have all pitched pretty well. And if they're able to just not pitch Martinez, the Cardinals, or Martinez and Ponce de Leon, if they can just kind of get rid of those guys and worry about their 3 pitchers like Flaherty, Gomber, and Wainwright, they have a chance. But then, you go to the bullpens, and obviously the Padres win that, and the Padres, have the better offense, the better bullpen, mainly better everything else. And they have the better starting pitching as well with Lamet and, Clevenger and Davies. They have a good starting pitching as well. So I'm just saying the Padres maybe shouldn't be minus 215, knowing the Cardinals starting, rotation has Wainwright, Flaherty, and Gomber, who have all pitched well this season. But yeah, I would still side with the Padres for sure.
How about the last series here? Dodgers, Milwaukee Brewers, the most heavily favored series here, minus 310, or at least over $3 at most outlets here for the Dodgers over the Milwaukee Brewers. Would be shocking to see if the Brewers were able to pull off an upset in this one. It would be nice to see it maybe go 3 games, but I'm just not, even though that price is high, I'm just not one to say, hey, let's just take a flyer and see what happens on the Brewers. We all know about the Dodgers, great bullpen. You're going to get legitimate starting pitching and a 1 through 9 that can bash anybody, unless Josh Hader is going to be able to pitch, 3 or 4 innings in every game in this series. I just don't see them hanging around here. Dodgers should be able to win big in this one, but I'm not interested either in laying a minus 310. There's some other shots to wait on there. Your thoughts here on the Dodgers and the Milwaukee Brewers here, Jason?
Yeah, there's no reason to touch this. The Dodgers are clear favorites for a reason, but that doesn't mean the Brewers can't win the series. That you can't ever count out any team. And the Dodgers at minus 315, you have to know for sure that the Dodgers can get it done. And I'm not 100% sure. I would never pay that price for, especially a 3-game series that you just never know could happen. So forget that. We're not going to touch that, but I would still side with the Dodgers, of course.
No, I would too. And there's a little quick preview series. And as it goes on, we have a huge card tomorrow that we'll be able to go over. We'll touch back on some of these series that start up again tomorrow. But let's get into the crux of the order today. How nice is this, Jason? A 2 o'clock start, a 3 o'clock start, a 5 o'clock start, and a 7 o'clock start. You're going to get baseball all day long. And tomorrow it's going to double up on us and be even more fun. But let's take a look here. 9:33, 9:34, 2 o'clock start here. Zach Greinke and Kenta Maeda. About 6 out of every 10 tickets here coming in on Minnesota. And I can't disagree with that. opened up at 144 and has quickly risen here, Jason, across the board. 165s, 166s, even some New Jersey outlets like DraftKings and BetRivers, 177s total across the board. And you're going to get used to these numbers a lot. No longer those 9.5, 10s, 10.5s. It's 7.5 across the board. So we try to match up and see what works. I'll tell you, it's amazing. When you take a look at Zach Greinke, it's still a very good year. XFIP numbers around that 322, K percentage around 25%. But I like the pitching matchup here from the bat perspective on Minnesota's side a lot better than I like Houston's side here in this one. And I know, Josh Donaldson's not going to be in the series. That's fine and good. But when you take a look at guys that can hit right-handed pitching, the lineup that's in here for the Twins today, you're talking about your 1 through 6 hitters, a 351 weighted on base average, 353, 381, 366, 368, 345. So you're going to be able to do some damage with some high ISO numbers. Now, flipping it over to the opposite side, you've talked about him all year long. I mean, Kenta Maeda has been sensational. XFIP in that under 3 range, 285, high strikeout number. Nothing he does is going to be advantageous to what you're looking at for the Houston Astros. Now, maybe last year when they were able to bang trash cans, or the year before able to cheat and do some things. This is not the same lineup. If you poke in like 2018 numbers, 2019 numbers, you go, whoa, this team should be able to at least have a swinging chance. That's not the case in this one. I want to go head-to-head in the first 5 innings. Even though I do think Minnesota's going to win the game, I'm trying to leverage that price of that 170. It's a little bit expensive. Instead of taking -1 or -1.5, I want to go head-to-head first 5 innings. I'm going to take Kenta Maeda in this game on the run line at -0.5. I think they'll be up at the end of 5. I think they'll be able to win this baseball game. What are you thinking here?
So you see Zach Greinke, and you're like, all right, well, Greinke, he's an ace pitcher. I should be scared. Well, if you look at his last 7 starts, he's allowed 3+ runs in all 7 games. So the Astros have also lost his last 4 starts that he's pitched in. But this is the guy, he had the low walk rate. He's facing a Twins offense that, like you said, they're really great against righties. With a batting average of, I think it's weighted on batting average of like 330. Righties are hitting 305 on the season with 5 home runs, 17 extra base hits off of Greinke. Of course, the Twins, obviously Donaldson's out, but the Twins right-handers can do damage, and that's what you'll probably see in this game. Kenta Maeda, he's got a high K rate, low hard contact rate. He's allowed 5 earned runs in his last 2 starts in 11 innings pitched. A 1.91 ERA at home, and a .168 batting average on the season. So for me, I agree. The Twins -0.5 in the first 5 would be a lean for me. I'd also lean towards the Twins over 3.5 on the team total. I see a lot of people in the chat. They're talking about, can this game go over 7.5? Maybe, I don't know if the Astros will hit the ball. I would just look at Twins over 3.5 on their team total. I'm a big Maeda fan. And I know Maeda's allowed a couple runs in his last start, so 5 earned runs in his last 2 starts. So he hasn't been, perfect, but, I respect Maeda a lot more than Greinke on the season. So if I were to make a play on this, I'd look at the team total of 3.5 for the Twins. And I know that's kind of high on the juice, like around like -140. So if you need to go 4, do that. That's fine. But I recommend over 4.5. Sure. But this is a game that I'm not going to be taking. I have a couple other games that I will be taking as official plays. So this is the one I'm staying away from. Let's, if you like to follow the money, we did see a $500,000 bet come on the Twins money line. So if you like to follow the money, you like to follow those people, the Twins on the money line would be the play. But now, because of that bet and a couple of other major bets, the Twins are at -180 around there instead of around -160 where it started. So, that would be a decision you guys would have to make.
Yeah, starting in 7 minutes here. Now starting an hour behind this next game here, the Chicago White Sox and the Oakland Athletics rotation, 9:37, 9:38. Lucas Giolito on the mound versus Luzardo, the lefty. 7 out of every 10 tickets here, Jason, coming in on Oakland at home, but a lot more money here coming in on the Chicago White Sox. They open up at 119. It's dipped a little bit, but depending on where you're shopping at, Pinnacle I'm showing offshore here at 116, Chris at 127, William Hill at 118, FanDuel at 128. So do yourself a favor, shop around, because some of these lines here, we're not talking about NFL lines that sit there all week long and move back and forth. You're going to get some pretty quick shifts here over the past 24 hours like we've seen. Over under again that we talked about in the Houston-Minnesota game. Started at 7.5, stayed at 7.5. You're getting that same range, but you're getting some good weather out in Oakland today. So a plus environment, as I like to say, for hitting. If we take a look at the lineups of these two ball clubs, I just think when I look at the lineup itself, because we'll take a look at the pitchers in a second. Listella, Grossman, Simeon, Olsen, Canal, Lamb. I mean, a nice start, right? But I'm looking at those guys that can win with a swing of the bat in the playoffs. When you're talking about runs at a premium, It's not about getting 3 to 4 hits in an inning. It's about getting a guy on first base, moving him to second, and having the power maybe to obviously at least get a single or drive one into the gap or obviously leave the ballpark. Anderson, Moncada, Grandal, Abreu, McCann, those first 5 batters, they should be able to do some damage today against the lefty Luzardo, and that's the way I'm looking at this game. We'll factor in some bankers a little bit later, but I got my eyes squared up. It's a little bit juicy here, but I'm going to lean on the team total over for the Chicago White Sox here at over 3.5 at William Hill at minus 135. There's no reason to believe I'm going to get a full 9 at-bats in good hitting weather out at Oakland, where I know this team can drive the ball into the gaps and certainly leave the ballpark. I like the over for the Chicago White Sox 3.5 team total. So if I like that, I like minus 116, minus 120 here on the Chicago White Sox today. I'll lean on Giolito in this spot.
Yep, I'm on the White Sox over 3.5 on the team total. I got it at minus 121 last night. I know
you got me. You got me.
Yeah,
Man.
I know that's risen up a little bit, but I think the Athletics even opened up as slight favorites to begin, which was kind of crazy to look at and see. But the White Sox, they destroy left-handed pitching. I mean, they are one of the best teams that in all of baseball in terms of hitting lefties this season. They stack right-handed bats. I'm pretty sure Eloy Jimenez is not playing today. He's getting healthy, though. He'll be back pretty soon. It just won't be this game. But we're talking about Luzardo, who has a high swing strike rate, but he's a lefty that can get tagged. And righties are hitting 256 on the season against him with 8 home runs and 176 at-bats. The one thing that people will definitely look at will be his home numbers. He has a 2.40 ERA at home. But if you look at the teams that he's faced, they're all non-playoff teams outside the Astros, who, again, we know are not the best hitting team. So he's faced teams like the Rangers and the Astros and some of the really bad teams that are in the playoffs at home. So his road stats, he has over an 8 ERA. And then at home, he has a 2.40 ERA. But that's because he's faced some terrible teams at home. Now we have the White Sox. The offense is a lot better. So I wouldn't look at his home numbers and say, he's been great at home. Obviously it is a pitcher's ballpark in Oakland. I get that, but the reality is he's faced some really poor teams at home this season, and now facing the White Sox as a lefty versus all these righties, you can forget it. And with that said, Giolito, he's also struggled. I'm not gonna, he struggled a little bit as of late. He's getting ground balls, but he struggles to get ground balls at around 37% in the last 2 seasons. But he's limited hard contact, hasn't been hit hard, and gets a high amount of swinging strikes. In his last game, he actually struck out 11 batters against the Indians. He did allow 2 runs, and he's also allowed 2 runs in his last 5 starts. So he's a guy that bends but doesn't break. But if we can get a 2-2 game, you'd expect the White Sox to kind of get over that hump and score their 4 runs on the game. Giolito also has an ERA of 2.79 on the road this season. In 5 starts, he's gone 2-0 on the road. Lefties and righties are both hitting under 200 against him. So Giolito definitely the better pitcher. Of course, we know that he pitches solid under pressure. He had a no-hitter this year. So, he pitches well under pressure. Should have a solid outing for him. And I would assume that the White Sox bats can definitely give him some protection in this one. So, therefore, White Sox over 3.5 team total is an official play for me. And, of course, I'd lean towards the White Sox on the money line as well.
You have high noon out there, so you get a nice day baseball game, some decent weather. Don't have to deal with that 50-degree weather at night where the ball doesn't travel out there in Oakland. So we'll see if we can get some swings of the bat, certainly some good swings of the bat from the Chicago White Sox. 9:35, 9:36, Toronto and Tampa Bay. Schumacher and Snell, the lefty, be on the mound. 6 out of every 10 tickets here coming in on the Tampa Bay Rays at home. They open at 185. Hasn't moved all around a lot. 189 at Pinnacle, 190 at Chris, William Hill, 190. Some of the New Jersey outlets, usually a little bit higher juice there on the trades between FanDuel minus 200, DraftKings minus 200, Bet Rivers minus 200, PointsBet New Jersey minus 200. So they're all sticking at that 2-1 range. But the same thing we've seen from the first 2 games here, Jason, opens up at 7.5 as a total and stays at 7.5 across the board. When we take a look at the matchup, look, Blake Snell's a really good pitcher. There's no denying it. xFIP around 318. The Rays certainly have the starting pitching advantage in this game. But if there's something of one of those look like, blinks of light or maybe a little glimmer here that you're taking a look at Toronto is they do hit lefties fairly well. First 6 batters in the lineup, 410 weighted on base average, 359, 371, 372, 353, and 371, 1 through 6. You should get some swings at the plate. And the knock that I always have against Tampa Bay is they strike out too much, and there's not enough power in that lineup. So if we're taking a look at Matt Schumacher, clearly I don't want to say the worst pitcher. He's not a bad pitcher, but of this slate here, he's going to be a bottom tier guy. It's a matter if he can maneuver his way through that lineup and not get damaged. And what I mean by that is it's not like you need 5 innings, 1 earned run to hang around. It's almost like if you can get the 5 innings, 3 earned runs, you're going to give yourself a chance if you can knock Snell out of the game and then try to get after the bullpen for Tampa Bay. I just don't trust those bats. They're going to stack a lot of left-handed bats. But you're talking about Susugo, Lau, Rosarena, Lowe, Adames, Wendell, Margot, Kiermaier, and Zunino. I've been on the wrong side a lot with Tampa Bay where they have to string together 3 hits to get a run. I don't see it. Now, do I want to go ahead and take that, dog price in this game? I still think Tampa Bay is the better team, but this is one of the games I'm going to lean on the over in the game as opposed to a team total. Give me the over 7.5. I can see at least 3 runs out of each side here, and maybe if you can get to Snell and, as we like to say, 1 swing of the bat, put up a crooked number, a 2 or 3 run inning, you'll be able to get there. I'm going to lean on the over in this game of over 7.5. Jason, what are you looking at here?
So we got an official play here. The Blue Jays over 2.5 on the team total.
There you go.
Excuse me. I got it at around minus 134. So again, Blue Jays over 2.5 on their team total at minus 134. This is a game where I think the Blue Jays are a live underdog in this one. As an 8 seed going up against the 1 seed against a Rays team that has struggled at home hitting the ball. Matt Shoemaker, this is a guy, he's allowed 3 earned runs or less in his last 4 starts. Obviously hasn't gone deep in these games, but that means that at least the Blue Jays will stay in this game to start the game. If Shoemaker, like you said, if you can keep them in the game, the Blue Jays certainly have a chance to pull off that upset. Then you look at Blake Snell, another lefty pitcher. He's got a very high K rate, but he's facing a Blue Jays lineup that really does have some sneaky little power there against lefties. They have a batting average really, they're one of the better teams against left-handed pitching. The White Sox are a little bit better than them, but then the Blue Jays are right below them as one of the better teams when it comes to hitting against left-handers. Why not? Why can't the Blue Jays do why can't they do damage against Snell in this one? Snell, he's the guy, he's either on or he's a little bit off. In a playoff atmosphere, I do think the Blue Jays, these young bats in that lineup, they're just delusional. They don't really have that pressure on them or any kind of playoff pressure on them. So, I expect them to be able to score 3 runs in this game. If Ryu was on the mound, it would be definitely a live dog, 100% for the Blue Jays, and I'd be on it. But with Shoemaker on the mound, I'll stick to the Blue Jays over 2.5 on the team total at minus 134. For me, it's an official play. I really think the Blue Jays could actually win this game.
What's interesting about the point you bring up here is pretty valid, because if Toronto steals game 1 here, you go to your ace in game 2. Now you have the anvil and you're ready to swing it. It'll be fun to see how that plays out. And I think if you're an ad executive, Tampa Bay getting knocked out, not the worst thing in the world here for the ratings of the Major League Baseball season. So we'll see how that plays out, but it'll be an interesting game to watch, because if you can get that hang around 3-2, 2-2 after 5 innings, that game's going to certainly be in play for Toronto.
And it also helps for the Yankees. The Yankees are 2-8 versus the Rays. If the Yankees are able to pass the Indians, they'd much rather those Blue Jays where they've hit like 15 runs per game against the Blue Jays compared to the Rays where they've really struggled. So the Yankees are definitely rooting for that too.
No, absolutely. Last game of the day, we'll talk about 9:31, 9:32, the New York Yankees and the Cleveland Indians. Cole versus Bieber, ace on ace in this game. Obviously, we talked about it earlier when we're going over the series prices here. It's a pretty market advantage here by the New York Yankees at what they bring to the table at the plate. So you are going to need to see A-plus pitching in this series from the Indians to move on and get past those Yankees. How about this line? Opens up around a pick'em, but now you're seeing a little bit more of that swing towards the New York Yankees here. Jason Pinnacle, 113, Chris, 113, DraftKings out of New Jersey, 114. Opens up at 6 as an over-under, and I think it just moves to 6.5 just because you look at the 6 and say, well, wait a second, we're really going to leave ourselves open here. I mean, it's not an old-school National League game with there's pitchers. You get 6 in a game, you can easily see 2-2 gets the extra innings, or 3-3, at the end of 9 innings, and you got that covered. I'm still going to lean on the over because I do think that I actually would be surprised. I understand they're really good pitchers, but if in the 7th inning, if this game is 1-1, I would be really surprised by that. So therefore, if I don't think it's going to be 1-1 and maybe a 3-2 shot by the 6th or the 7th inning, I'm going to go lean on the over in this one, over 6.5. But I do like the Yankees in the spot. I think Garrett Cole can give them a good performance, but it's not so much about going up and say which pitcher is going to be better. I just trust the bats on the Yankees here, Jason, more than I do the Indians. I mean, that's just the way I sit on this one.
Yeah, we're in agreement 100%. Yeah, I think it's funny. The Indians are getting a ton of money going towards them, and it's funny because at the beginning of the season, we always said if you can get the Yankees at -110, it's always a no-brainer with this lineup that they have.
Yeah.
And here they are, -110 facing the Indians. They're the favorites going into the series. Now that's dropped from like -135 to like -120, even seeing around -110 and plus 100, which scares me because like look at the Indians, their offense has really not been good outside Ramirez, Lindor, maybe Hernandez. The bottom half of the Indians lineup is just really bad. And Cole's looked really good in his last 3 starts. He's back to postseason Cole, and when you get that, I mean, good luck. When it comes to Bieber, this is a guy, if you look at down the entire slate of the games, Bieber's actually allowed the most hard contact percentage out of any other pitcher that's starting in today's games in the AL. That's compared to Luzardo. That's compared to Shoemaker. That's what Bieber does. He allows hard contact. The thing is, it's hard to exploit it because, of course, he strikes out a ton of batters. So he's striking out 14.2 batters per 9 innings. But if a team can get contact against his balls with the bat, he can allow some home runs. And that's what could happen with the Yankees. They have a ton of power in their lineup. They're very talented in that lineup. And, of course, if the game is tied going into the 8th or 9th inning, I'd lean on the Yankees with their bullpens and what the Yankees have to offer when it comes to their lineup. So 100% I'd be on the Yankees at -110. I like the over 6, of course, as well. I already have a bet on the Yankees in the series, so there's really no reason for me to put money on the Yankees in this game because I already have the Yankees in the series, so I'm still rooting for the Yankees no matter what. So I'm going to stick to just leaning towards the Yankees at -110 and leaning towards this game going over 6. But, I'm a big Yankee believer in this series for sure.
Yankee backer is going to have a little bit of problem with this one, Jason, because obviously it is a series, but all 3 games are going to be in Cleveland. Maybe if Cleveland leads a little bit of help, they bring in some bugs to fly around, maybe Aroldis Chapman or Garrett Cole if they're in trouble. If you guys remember Jabba Chamberlain, I believe that was back in like 2007 or 2008. The bugs swarmed in and was a problem for those New York Yankees. But we covered the card today. All 4 games went over some playoff series. Did that in about 35 minutes. 305 people watching the channel currently right now live. We do thank you for that. If you missed the show, if you missed anything here at sportsbookraview.com. The videos are there. Jason's write-ups are there. A lot of people, even in this chat box with some write-ups in there. SBRpicks.com/MLB for all your needs. Let's get to some best bets and bankers, and it's our playoff edition. But we're still going to get after. We're going to carry you right through the World Series. I already went over the game. Obviously, there's 4 games today. The game that sticks out to me, I just think those bats will be able to come alive for 4+ runs. I'm not going up against an ace pitcher in the Oakland Athletics. Bullpen, yes, is decent, but I'm getting some really good weather out there to hit, and I just need maybe a Jose Abreu fly ball in the 2nd inning to leave the yard for a 2-run home run, and we will be on our way. So I'm going to make my best bet and banker today. Those Chicago White Sox team total over 3.5 at -135. I'll go with that. Jason, your best bets and bankers today. Give them a recap here.
Yeah, so we have a show banker here. We're going White Sox over 3.5 team total. So I know a lot of people are asking about 4.5 in the chat. Some it looks like some books have changed it to 4.5 now. I would probably stick to 3.5. It is the playoff game. The Athletics, their bullpen hasn't been good the last 2 weeks. I think it's like an over 5 ERA. But I would still be a little bit hesitant, so I would probably try to stick to over 3.5 team total. If you get 4, that's fine. 4.5, I think that's a little bit of a risk there. But the odds are showing you, that's going to be a little bit of a risk as well. But again, the banker for me and for Donnie, White Sox over 3.5 on the team total. That's a 3:00 game Eastern Standard Time, so make sure to get that bet in. After you listen to my final official play, which is the Blue Jays over 2.5 of the team total. That's at -134. I think the Blue Jays are a live underdog in this game. If we're going to see an underdog today, it will probably be the Blue Jays in this game against Blake Snell, who struggled versus my Mets in his last start and allowed, I think, 3 runs in that game. So again, Blue Jays over 2.5 team total at -134. Another official play from me. And those are my 2 plays for the first day of postseason baseball.
There you go. Games, as you said, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock. Guys, we'll be back again tomorrow, same time, 1:30 p.m. Eastern. And how about tomorrow, Jason? We start at noon. We have the game at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and 10 o'clock tonight. That is going to be a fun show. But we do thank you for tuning in today. We're rooting on our best bets and bankers here on Tuesday, but you guys have done it again. The support for the show is amazing. Thank you for a great regular season. Let's continue right through to the playoffs and have some fun. As I said, we will be back tomorrow. I'm Donnie Seymour. He's Jason Radowitz. We're sportsbookreview.com. And this was your Tuesday Major League Baseball show. Take care.